Hello and welcome to this week's episode of my Best Friends in Engineering podcast. I'm Libby.
I'm Lexi.
And let's get right into it. What are we going to talk about today, Lexi?
So today we have part 2 of our Q&A. So we have the rest of the questions that you guys submitted a few weeks ago because we talked way too much in the part 1. So it ended up overflowing. We were having a blast. That was like the chaotic episode that I remember being like, I think we're going to have to edit a lot of that out.
I was sitting in the closet. I have decided not to sit in the closet anymore. Hopefully the audio is fine. We're still working on the audio.
Yeah, let us know though. But hopefully it's better. I feel like in the beginning episodes, because it was in person, I feel like we were like sitting kind of far away from the mics, and now that we're using all this new like podcast recording softwares, it's better. I don't know, because I feel like I'm closer to the mic, so.
I know, I'm like, can you hear me today?
They're like, oh my god, put the volume down. Like, mic down.
And this episode is super exciting because it's episode 10. Woo!
Double digits.
Literally, I can't believe it's episode 10 already. I feel like we've been doing this for not really that long, but it feels like we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I know. It's exciting though. So yeah, we've talked to a lot of cool people interview-wise, so it's fun to have another like just us episode to chit-chat.
Yeah.
So
I know we haven't done a just us since this other Q&A episode, I feel like.
Yeah. Which I don't even know when it was, a few weeks ago, but.
Yeah. We've got a lot of advice up our sleeves, so if you guys don't hear something that you want us to talk about yet, don't worry. There's no end in sight for this podcast anymore. We have so many topics and episodes that we still want to get through, so.
Yes.
But.
So how was your week?
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
Okay, sorry. We gotta get better at the cues. I'm like, don't get into the episode yet. We gotta talk about the week.
Okay, you go first. How's your week?
Yes. Okay, let's see. Let me think. Now that I have a breather. I like that we film these on Fridays, too. It's just kind of nice to recap.
It's like a good recap, yeah.
Yeah, end of the week. So this week was good. I got some samples back, so I was on-site testing. So for us on-site, the QA inspectors kind of do the testing, which I know we talked about this a little bit in our Q&A part 1 of how to interact with like kind of the shift workers and like people who kind of help out with our projects. So they were conducting the actual testing. I was just there to make sure if they needed anything, you know, they had the support they needed. So we got all the testing done. So yeah, I was on site quite a bit, but today I was remote, so that was nice catching up on other projects. But yeah, we'll have to rerun
that's
that
nice
one.
Because it was a Friday.
Yeah,
you know, like
that worked out really well. I was like trying to plan out the testing. I was like, okay, well, we got him back Monday. We'll do it these days, and then we're good. But I was like, we have a buffer at least if we needed it. But we do have one more lot to run, unfortunately, because of a failure. So we have to redo those parameters. But it's okay. It's
are you like
part of the job?
Are you nearing the end of your project? Or like, are you in the middle, or?
This was supposed to be the end of it. So we were supposed to be done. No more products run, or like lots run. But we had that one failure, which I think I mentioned briefly. So because we had that failure, and it was on the non-sterile product too. So this was a sterile validation, but we added the non-sterile product just to get more data on it, because we do sell a non-sterile product of this, device. And so unfortunately the non-sterile failed. So
sad.
It was very disappointing. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, really? It was like the safest one. I was like not going through like the double. So for validations, you kind of want to do the worst case. So in this case, we did 2 rounds of sterilization, even though they usually go through 1 round. So yeah, that one failed, and I was like, girlfriend. So we'll have to rerun that one.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Get your ish together.
So we'll rerun that one. So that kind of prolonged it by actually a month because of the way that we're doing So we're doing the 2 round of sterilization, which that takes 3 weeks in itself. So that just added a month, and then we're kind of waiting on the plate to be changed on the machine. So that kind of pushes it back 2 weeks. So yeah, we did not plan for that. I bet my project manager is like freaking out. But it's okay. It's not bad. We're dealing with it. But yeah,
That's good.
Yeah, how about you? How was your week?
It was good. I'm feeling a little exhausted today, but good. We're in week 2 of our outage, and I think I mentioned maybe last week, but and this will actually air in 2 weeks, so who knows what mental state I'll be in when this airs.
I know, right?
But we had like over 100 parts that somehow like slipped through the cracks, and we had to quickly like order. Usually with these outages, we try to have like our customers order all the parts like months, like a year in advance, so that when comes time to like take everything apart, we like have everything we need to put it all back together. So anyway, so we got all the parts quoted, and it's been fine. Like, we're gonna be able to get them in time, but I have just been staring at spreadsheets of parts for like literally 11 hours a day with my face like 2 inches from a computer screen.
Oh, gosh.
And every Thursday we have we've got a weekly update with my boss, and we have like a spreadsheet of all our projects, and we go through. And when I got on the call, he was like, how's it going? Like, I could tell he was like kind of feeling run down, like outage season is starting, so he's probably putting out a lot of fires. And I was like, I always try to make jokes on these calls, but like I don't think anybody ever gets my jokes. But anyway, I was like, oh, good. I gotta stop staring at a computer screen or my eyeballs are gonna fall off. And he, like, was just silent. And he was like, yeah, same. And I was like,
you're not, it's like, you're not special, girlfriend. It's like, my eyes are hurting, too.
I was like, oh, I'm sorry. But, no, it's good. Like, so far, so good. I did decide, I think I said on last week's episode that I have a, work trip to Florida, and I wasn't sure if I was going to stay or not. I did it. I scheduled the flight out. I scheduled my Airbnb, so I'm going to be in Florida for 1 day, all alone, and it's the first time I'll be doing an alone trip, but...
That's exciting. Let us know. I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to hear about it. So did you already, like, ask your boss about it? How did that conversation go?
Yes. Oh, my God. I know I was so nervous about that. But I just, like, nonchalantly slid it in one morning when I was talking to him on the phone. I was like, while I've got you on the phone, I just want to ask you a quick question. Obviously, it's, like, no big deal, but I was, like, so freaked out. I was like, I don't know if you've ever done this before, but what do I do if I go somewhere on a work trip, but and it's, like, at the end of the week, and I want to stay the weekend, like, on my own personal time? And he was like, oh, yeah, duh, that's no big deal. And I was like, oh, cool, I just wasn't sure, like, how things go. And so we were able to work it out, and he was like, yeah, just if you're going to be there for your personal days, like, it's the weekend, you're not working, obviously, so just make sure that whatever you purchase, you use on your personal card. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks.
Perfect. So, obviously, your company pays for the flight back on, like, that Friday or whenever you get back. So, in that case, did they cover your flight back on Sunday, or did you have to, like, show proof of, like, the flight price on Friday versus Sunday and then, like, pay the difference?
No, it was super easy, and I don't know how other companies do it, but my boss was like, you're gonna have to get home anyway, like, because even if I wasn't staying for personal reasons, like, I would have a flight home. So he's like, just change the day. And they didn't ask, like, about pricing.
Wait, that's so nice. Oh, right? My gosh, that's awesome. Okay,
so
perfect.
The only thing that I think is going to be a little bit tricky is I have to change my, like, the card that has the rental car. So I called the travel company, and they were like, it's super easy. Just tell Hertz when you are checking in that you're going to bring the car back and check it out and then recheck it in on a new card. And I was like, okay, that's super easy. So
perfect. You'll be so tan when you get back. You gotta take advantage of that day. Right.
I have no plans but to sit outside. And it's so fun because the customer that we're going to visit, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but she is like around our age. So I was talking to her on the phone today about something else, and she was like, are you excited to come down to Florida? And I was like, heck yeah! I'm like,
you're like, I'm better than Wisconsin.
I'm like,
kidding,
bitch, hell yeah!
Like, nothing against Wisconsin, but I would love to be in Florida.
Right? I was like, yeah, girl. Like, no, I did not say yeah, girl. Just kidding. She's a customer. But I was like, yes, I'm so excited to be in the warm weather, going to take advantage of it. It's very cold here in Wisconsin, and So, yeah.
Perfect. Maybe you guys
I'll have to give an update.
Yeah. I know when I was at the consulting firm, we would like go out to happy hours with the client and stuff, and it would be like a business thing. But they were also like our age, so maybe she'll hang out with you. That'd be fun.
we have like a dinner planned, and so that'll be exciting. I'm super sad though because at that company, they hit like historically the person that's in that position. It's kind of like it seems like it's almost like a rotational thing. So I don't think she's gonna be at this position. I don't know. Who knows? Like, I could be completely wrong, and she could be here forever. But, like, based on what I've seen in the past 2 years working at this company with this customer, they kind of, like, rotate that position a lot. So I don't know if I'll be able to work with her for much longer, but I hope I do, because...
Yeah. She's going to be listening to this and be like, girl, does she want me out of my job?
She found me on
like,
TikTok
no.
one time, and she messaged me, and she was... If you're listening to this, no, I don't know if she listens, but she found me on TikTok and she messaged me and she was like, oh my gosh, do you work for such and such company? Like, I think I work with you. And I was like, oh, hey, yeah, I do.
How did you feel about that? Did you feel like awkward? Or I know that you talked about a coworker.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt a little bit awkward, but she's super cool and she never brought it up again. So I don't know if she still follows me. If she does, what up, girl? But
yeah. Amazing. And then also you're about to hit 100,000 on TikTok soon, and you have something set, the pearl earrings. I was gonna wear like little pearl dangly earrings because I thought about that today, and I was like, no, I'll just leave what I have. It's like I'm not gonna do the earrings.
I don't know why.
But that's exciting.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it. I don't know. This is gonna be so lame of me, but I think I just like forgot that real. Also, this is probably gonna sound really blonde moment of me, but I didn't really realize that like real jewelry was a thing. Like I did, but like I don't know, I've just been so used to like getting my earrings at Claire's and like doing all this stuff, and I was telling my mom that my ears were getting infected, and she was like, why don't you just go to a jewelry store and buy real pearls? And I was like, the light bulb went off, and I was like, ding. I was like, that's such a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have like those little milestones that you set, and then you can like work towards that. But yeah, I wanted to talk about how in undergrad you always wore pearls. To our listeners, it was just like her little staple. So that is so funny. And Brett's probably like saving that for like a Christmas gift, and he saw your TikTok. It's like,
I know, right? I was like, he was like, you could have saved that for like your birthday or something. I was like, I'm an independent woman, okay? Yeah. I'm gonna go out and buy myself that jewelry. I don't know, wait for no man.
It's like now I have to go back and brainstorm ideas.
So that'll be exciting. We'll see.
Perfect.
Hopefully soon.
Amazing. Yes.
Should we, before we get into this episode, do we want to transition and talk about our reviews or read off our reviews for the week?
Yes, I would love to. Would you like to go first?
Yes. Okay, so if you guys are new, head over to the link in our bio, fill out our survey, and you will get the chance to be featured on one of our episodes. We read off reviews every episode in the beginning, so stay tuned. If you leave a review, maybe you'll be featured. All right, so this person said, I'm excited to hear what y'all have to say. Oh, wait. Hold on. That's not what they said. Okay, this person said, I'm just excited to hear what y'all have to say. This literally doesn't exist anywhere, so I love it. Thank you, girl. We love it too. And that's what we thought too. When we were starting to think about doing a podcast, we were like, okay, yeah, there are like STEM podcasts out there, like engineering podcasts, sciencey podcasts, but like sometimes you just want to sit down with your girls, have a coffee, and chit chat, and that's what we're all about. So
exactly. I feel like they're very good, very professional podcasts I've like listened to. But and I think we definitely do touch on the professional side of it, but I feel like a lot of it is more just like not talking about too much of the professional development aspect, just like the other real life kind of other things
Hanging
that go
with
into
your
being
pals.
other things that go into being an engineer. So amazing. Well, I will read what this person said. So she said, why am I
These episodes are just always going to be chaotic, I think. Every Q&A episode we do is just going to be chaotic.
All right,
this person. Shooting it.
I'm like repeating this person said, and I'll read what this person said, and she said this, and this is what she's typed out. Okay. Sorry.
This person used a computer, and they left a review via keyboard, and they typed it out.
All right. Love that you both found your women in STEM squads in college and are starting this podcast to share and spread that community to other women who might be feeling alone. I worked for some time as the first and only female engineer at a factory in a rural area, and I wish I had something like this to keep me going and motivated. So excited to keep listening. Awesome. Well, I am excited for you to keep listening too. But yeah, I think... like I said, and like I've touched on before, you know, we met through Theta Tau. Theta Tau was probably one of the main reasons I was able to keep going through all the hardships. Not hardship. Oh, that sounds so dramatic.
But
just all the hard
hardships.
parts.
Yeah.
the hard parts and frustrating parts of becoming an engineer. So, Thanks, Theta Tau.
That sounds... I'm glad. I hope we can be some women out there, they're girly girls that they just sit and listen to, because I cannot imagine, like, not having Theta Tau, like, not having you, Lexi.
Yeah, I'd be so sad.
What would I do without you?
Too emotional for me.
Cut it out. I don't know how I would have done it without my gals in engineering. Like, I just don't know how people do it.
They'll let us know.
I don't even know. No, they don't have to even ever worry about it, because now they got us. They got
True. We'll never know. No one will ever know.
They got Tweedledee and Tweedledum in engineering over here.
Wait, why wasn't that our name? Tweedledee.
I'm crying. There's probably some like sophisticated podcasts out there. People are listening to be like, who are these girls and why are they spreading engineering?
Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Oh my god, that's our new
crying.
That's our tagline. That's how I felt most of the time. I don't know if I was Tweedledee or Tweedledum, but it varied on each day.
The podcast that Tweedledee and Tweedledum needed when they were younger.
Ding dong, bing bong. Oh my god! Oh man, I'm so sorry for. If we don't cut this out. Honestly,
I don't know. Laughing with us. I bet they're laughing.
I hope
with
so.
Us.
If not, just fast forward. That was like about a minute 30 seconds, so you can fast forward. Okay.
And on today's episode.
Okay, so then the last part I think we should just touch on is the Facebook group that we just started.
Oh my god, duh.
How could you forget? We have a link tree now. We have a link tree now in our Instagram bio, so go check it out and request to be a part of the group. So we just wanted to make the group, again, to be another outlet and another way that we can all come together as women in STEM and kind of just chit-chat and just hang out and, you know, if you need advice, just post a little question. I don't know. So
what did you say? I think you said last week it's like our little Reddit page. I like when you say that.
Yes, our little corner of the internet, like kind of like Reddit, I guess, where you can just I feel like, again, it's way easier to comment and like start conversations when you're not in like the Instagram comments. Yeah. So I feel like, I don't know. So go check that out in our Instagram bio.
Yeah. And we have just been doing, like, if you guys haven't checked out the Facebook group yet, we just kind of been doing like weekly questions, getting to know each other. Hopefully it'll be a good place for connections. But we definitely want to do more with it, like hopefully resume tips or like some sort of a resume review. I don't know if we can like start a forum like that, but yeah, just like professional, fun, connecting. Maybe you can find a job, maybe you can find a roommate, all the above.
Yeah.
But girls in STEM.
Definitely. For a second, I was like, are we even recording?
What if we made it this far and we hadn't pressed record?
Oh my god, I'm so sorry to whoever's listening. This is chaotic. Okay,
I think I'm going to just close the laptop and be like, let's try again tomorrow.
Oh my
okay,
god.
Let's get into the questions. These people are probably like, I'm waiting for the Q&A.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. We're gonna put in the comments it starts at 20 minutes.
Yeah, we'll say that when it starts.
Perfect.
Okay,
yeah. Okay, that's our
let's
out.
start off strong.
Yeah.
Let's start off strong. Did we talk about this on the last one? Working with bro culture?
So we kind of talked about how to address the comments from, I guess, people
from the bros.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
From the bros.
Yeah, so I think maybe we can talk about how if you don't have these comments and we're not, like, you know, addressing any specific situation, just in general, how it's like working in bro culture.
Yeah.
So I guess, okay, I can go, I guess.
Yeah.
I would say my tip is just not to think of it as bro culture. I think everyone comes into it thinking that, and I feel like that kind of fuels the fire. I think, again, it's something I touched on before. You should just expect the same type of respect, expect the same treatment, and then once it gets to a point where you don't receive that, then that's an issue, and then you can kind of focus on dealing with that. Again, I have not, fortunately, come into any situations where I felt engulfed in that type of culture. And I liked, you had a good comment. I don't know if you said it on podcast or, you know, on your TikTok or something, where you have never come into these situations, you know, in person, but online you get them all the time. So I guess going back to that, I think it's less common right now in person and, you know, in the office. It's just, I think the internet kind of fuels that stereotype of, you know, that how men are, you know, the bros act in that industry. That's my take on it.
And I think you have to, like, to a certain degree, you have to just accept the reality that you are choosing to go into engineering. You know, like, I mean, I would love for one day engineering to be, like, 99% woman, you know, but, like, the reality right now is that, what is it? I think the statistic is, like, 22% is women or something like that.
I think so.
Very low. And obviously, you know, we are all about getting more women in STEM and just spreading awareness and kind of like shedding light on it. But to a certain degree, I did go into my job with the understanding that I would be one of the only women. And I think kind of how you were saying, Lexi, you just have to not go into it with the expectation that you're going to be surrounded by the bros. Like, I mean, you are, but if you have the mindset that everything is always about the bros, then it will be. But if you think, like, if you think of yourself as being included, then, what you focus on is what you see. So if you focus on always being included with a group of men at your job or at your school, like, you're going to be. They're not going to intentionally leave you out. That's what I think about it.
Definitely. I completely agree.
And
so, yeah,
I think... Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like sometimes there also can be, like, underlying bro culture that isn't as, as seen or something. What am I trying to say? But, like, for example, all the guys on my one job, I know they all love to fish. And all they talk about all the time whenever we, like, get ready, for example, to go to one of these power plants in Florida is, like, deep sea fishing and getting out on the boat. And they also like to bring their golf clubs. And they like to hit the greens. And you know what? I'm just going to go to Florida and put on a swimsuit and go tan. And maybe check out some of the boutiques.
Hey, you're a big golfer now, though. Big golfer girl.
Gorgeous girls love to golf. But, like, I think sometimes that can be a little bit also difficult in the workforce, is, like, trying to relate to people. Or, like, another big thing, we're from the Midwest. Everybody that I work with loves to hunt. And they love to talk about their guns. And I'm just like, I got my nails done this week. Like, that's the only thing that I can contribute to this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes some of those scenarios, or just, like, the social aspect of, like, working with men definitely can be, like, a lot more difficult. And you definitely can feel a little bit more isolated in that way if you're looking to connect with people, like, on hobbies or activities outside of work.
Definitely. But again, I think it's the same thing. You should just kind of get ready for that. I don't know. I don't want to say that, you know, give in. I don't know. There's going to be that disconnect. You know what I mean?
It's such a fine line.
Definitely.
Because, like, you don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to give in and I'm just going to, like, no, you want to, we're women, embrace your femininity, however that means to you. But at some point, I feel like, working in engineering is just going to be different than working in, for example, the cosmetic industry. And I'm just pulling that out of my butt. I don't even know what the statistics of women working in the cosmetic industry are, but I'm just going to assume that because it's makeup, it's probably a little bit more women than men. I don't know if I'm making a good analogy here, but you know what I'm trying to say?
No,
it's just
definitely.
Like,
I think
you're
so.
just going to expect different things with different careers.
Definitely. Very good. Very good. All right. So, next question. Best interview tips you have for college students who haven't really done interviews yet?
This is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Should we answer this question maybe by just like sharing our experiences with like interviewing in college, like for internships or co-ops or whatever?
Yeah.
So how did you get ready, Lexi, for your internship interviews?
So for my internship, and I guess it was the same thing for my jobs, just because I feel like those were like entry level, so I feel like kind of similar preparation.
Yeah.
So I wrote out everything, and I had like, either if it was a phone interview, I would have it kind of, for both, I think, actually, even if it was like a Zoom, obviously not in person, that was different, but I don't think I really was in that situation because, one, internships, a lot of them were, if they were in person, it was because of career fair, but a lot of them were on the phone and like virtual. So I would print out a list of questions, very common questions, and then I would just have examples for each one. So it was just kind of like the main ones that I would just Google. And then I had a bunch of questions for the company itself. So one comment that I got actually for interviewing for my second role is he was a director level, so very intimidating, but it made me so happy after because he's like, you know what, I honestly have no, I always close out my interviews with, do you have any additional questions that I can answer? In general, I know that there's this one question that people like to ask, is there anything that makes you uncertain that I'm fit for the role, which I don't really feel comfortable asking that.
That is feisty.
But I know what their intention is, but I don't think I would feel comfortable asking that in an interview. So I ask, is there anything else I can answer? Is there anything else that came up that you questioned or anything? And he goes, no, honestly, you came with multiple questions. He's like, I really enjoy, like, I really like that. I haven't had someone that had as many questions prepared as you did. And in my head, I was like, okay, well, I feel like that's the bare minimum, like what you need to do for these interviews. So I would really push on that, having these questions. Even, honestly, I have a list of 10, because if it comes up in the conversation, I just want to be ready to have another one, in my back pocket, because I feel like, again, when you're put on the spot with these questions, I think it's really easy to forget. Like, I totally blank, and then I get nervous, So I think that is something that I would definitely push. So that's kind of my thought process. I Google all the potential questions, have an answer, have a few examples, and then I have a list of multiple questions for the company or position itself. But how about you? What process do you go? Oh,
before I get into what I did you have them on a piece of paper in front of you or like on your laptop in front of you if it was a phone interview so that you can reference your answers?
Yep, I had everything printed next to me, just like notes, even jumbled. Like maybe I didn't go into details, but it would be like product names. Like I'd be like, okay, this XYZ, just so I could remember it. Because you definitely don't want to be reading from a script because they can tell. So you want to practice a few times. Like I don't even know if I had you interview me because I feel like I get so nervous. But I would just like talk to a wall. Like I would just literally like, it was way easier with these phone interviews because you could just be talking. And
or you could like Google something.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like even with the podcast, I feel like when you're talking and looking at someone, it's kind of harder. And then, if you're on the phone, you're like, okay, let me look at the ceiling as I can remember like this better. So what I did, I literally just talked to the wall. I was like, okay, if I get this question, this is how I would respond to it. And kind of just practicing the flow of how the question would go really helped, I think, just make it seem more natural. But yeah, I would have everything printed or pulled up on my laptop. I didn't really like the laptop thing. I'm more of a pen and paper kind of gal, so I kind
down.
of had so I had everything printed for every single interview that was virtual, even my full-time roles that I was interviewing for, but big advocate of the pen and paper. But
love that.
Yeah. How about you? What was your process like?
Well, okay, so I'm trying to think back, like, what I did to prepare when I was in college, but I feel like I also want to throw in a little bit of advice of things that I didn't do, but after, like, working, I would give it advice to someone who is prepping for an interview. So I'll start off by doing the things that I did. So similar to you, I, researched questions. I think that's a really good thing that, like, no matter what industry you're in, if you are preparing for an interview, just Google questions. I mean, you're not going to be able to predict exactly what the people are going to say, but you're going to get, like, more comfortable giving those type of answers. Another thing that I did was for every company that I interviewed with, I did a lot of research about them before the interview. I think that is really key because if you go into an interview and you don't even know what the company does, I mean, if I were interviewing a person and they didn't even know what the company was that they were interviewing for, I would kind of be like, you're wasting my time, like,
Definitely.
I'll find somebody else who's more interested. So I know that, like, when I was researching some companies, like, that I would see at career fair or whatever, sometimes it was hard to figure out what these companies did. Like,
exactly, yeah.
Just based on their website. Have you had that experience?
Oh my god, all the time, because a lot of them use these buzzwords, keywords, so it's very hard.
Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question off of that. If you were interviewing for a role and you have the, title of the position, you have the description, which is very generic, so say you are doing your research, you did everything, but it's just a very generic role in general. How would you go about prepping for that? Do you have any advice for people who are maybe in that situation that have done the research, but they're still... Because there are positions like that. I feel like, again, we talked about this briefly with engineers. You have so many different departments you work with and so many different aspects of your role that you can, do on a daily basis. So how would you recommend?
Well, I know that, like, for example, the job that I have now, I originally applied for and interviewed for a parts engineer position. And I remember trying to prep for that interview, and I knew what the company did, but I think I was still very confused by the position, kind of like what you said, because they use so many buzzwords and it's so generic, which I think they just, like, can't make it detailed because then you're, like, the company's probably releasing proprietary information on, like, LinkedIn about, like, which I never thought about that till now, but, I don't know. I just kind of Googled, like parts engineer, like, daily tasks of parts engineer, and I didn't really find anything that was useful. I think I went into the position thinking that I would be drawing out new parts all day long on CAD, which the position they do a little bit of that, but there's so much more. But then again, I also don't think it's, like, a bad thing to kind of have all these questions that you can ask in their interview and be like, kind of admit a little bit to it and be like, well, before I came into this, because I am really interested in this role, I did do a little bit of research, but I do have a couple follow-up questions if you don't mind asking them or answering them. If it gets to the end of the interview and you have this list of questions, I think that could potentially show your future employer that you are interested in the role. I don't know. What do you think about that? Yeah,
no, that's a good point. So I would say in that situation, so I'd never thought about this until you were talking about, like, how hard it is to kind of pinpoint exactly what a company does. I think what my main piece of advice would be, these engineering interviews, they ask these questions to understand your thought process and to ensure that you're able to critically think in these situations and to understand how you think. So that's kind of why I was focusing on how the question flowed instead of more, understanding, like, the script and, like, memorizing that script. So I think maybe if you can work on explaining your thought process, which kind of goes into your situation where you interviewed for one, but clearly you answered well enough for them to be confident that you were able to take that other role that you didn't really, interview for or were, look into. I would say that would be my suggestion, to kind of focus on that aspect maybe instead, if you're in that situation where you don't exactly know what you're interviewing for. But
yeah,
hopefully you're not, though. Hopefully they're less stressful interviews, but
yeah, right. And I think that something that I like to remind people all the time that I don't think I necessarily realized in college, but I realize now, is that people just want to work with good people. You know, like, nobody wants to hire an a-hole to work for them. Nobody wants to hire a know-it-all. Like, I think that just be confident in who you are. You know, I think it's okay to show off your personality to an extent. Like, obviously still keep it professional. But like you said, I think that companies just want to see how you would tackle a problem. And, like, if you would be open to not, like, morphing to their policies, but, yeah, like, maybe how coachable or, like, how quickly you would learn in a new situation. Things like
Definitely.
that.
Yeah, and one thing going off of that is the transparency where you admit, I'm not too familiar with this or know too much about that. I think that's very important. And again, it's just how you present it. I'm not too familiar with this, but I'm very excited and willing to learn and, looking forward to that in a role. I remember actually, so this was actually in my second role that I'm currently in, and I got a question, and I just straight up told the person, I said, you know what, I'm not too familiar with this. Let me discuss with my team. And this was just a Teams call. And he goes, honestly, I really appreciate that. Like, thank you so much for letting me know and just being straightforward that you didn't know. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, do people, like, I don't know, I'd feel so worried lying about how much knowledge I have on that subject, because I'm like, with engineering, you're dealing with things that can minor in things can cause very big issues in projects. So I think, I don't know, I'm like surprised that people are so willing to be like, oh yeah, that's fine, like, all that stuff. So I was just kind of, I appreciated his response. I felt dumb not knowing, but I'm like, I can't answer that right now. I'm like, let me do my research, talk to my team. But
phone a friend.
Yeah, phone a friend. Phoned so many friends this week. But and I wanted to push on that. The transparency is key, and just focus on how you present that and just communicate that.
And going off of that, another thing that this is so weird, but when I did my co-op, my boss, he was the best boss I could have asked for my first boss. And he often would give me a lot of advice. And he said that, he doesn't like when people say yeah or, oh, I don't know. He was like, if you know something, say yes. And if you don't know something, say no. Like, don't be wishy-washy, because nobody has time for that. Like,
exactly.
Nobody has time in their busy day for you to kind of just putz around and beat around the bush to try to maybe give an answer. Like, if you don't know something, say, actually, no, I don't know that. Can you please explain? Or is there a time when you could can I set time aside on your calendar to talk to you about this or whatever? And on the flip side, if you know something, say yes. Like if someone's like, oh, will this part be finished on time, for example? Say yes. Don't be like, oh, yeah, it will be.
Let me check my calendar.
Totally, I think it will be. You just say yes.
I like that. I like that advice. Nice and concise. I love it. Yeah. But yeah, so honestly, moral of the story, communication is key.
Yeah, I don't really know if we answered this person's question, but...
Advice? Yeah, I hope so. I mean, what else? What other advice?
We gave some insight.
Okay, so I think maybe some other, follow-up advice to this question would be thinking of potential follow-up questions that the interview could have to your specific answer. So, for example, you said, I worked on this project. They're going to just ask you further detailed questions about that. Maybe that might not be the most common questions that you find on Google, but just think of possibilities. I'm trying to think of more specific, questions. Maybe like if you talked about a specific issue that you had a project, he'll say, oh, why didn't you do this instead of this? Maybe just so I would say consider those follow-up for sure. And then try to bring the answer full circle. I was in this situation. This is how I addressed it. And this was the benefit of how I went of that path forward, I guess. So yeah, I'm trying to think, did we answer that question? But
I just thought of something that you were talking about. I don't know. It just sparked this memory in my head. Piece of advice. If you are doing an interview for an engineering position, even if you've never actually... even if you've never had any prior experience and this is your first internship interview, if they ask you a question, try your hardest to remember to relate it back to a project you've done in school or something that you worked on in an engineering or technical related club. Try not to bring in something from your personal life. And I say this because for the job that I have now, there was a more technical interview with my boss, my current boss, and my boss's boss. But before that, I had an HR interview. And the HR lady asked me, when has there been a time in your life where you've solved a conflict? And you know what I did? I thought about a time in my life when I had a conflict with my freshman year roommate in college. And I told her all about how I was a great problem solver and I solved this issue of who was going to vacuum our rug in our freshman year dorm room. You know what this lady says to me?
What did she say?
She was very nice, and you know what? I'm very thankful that she was very nice and said this to me. After I gave my interview, and yeah, I'm so excited. I'm yeah, and I came up with a plan, and I made a poster board of when we would vacuum the rug.
And then the rug was clean for the rest of the year. No crumbs found.
I'm so excited. And I solved the conflict. We did not fight about it for the rest of the year. And so she just looks at me calmly, and she goes, okay, great. Yeah, is there anything that you can answer this question on that relates to your prior work experience? My face turned red as a tomato, and I was I literally wish in that moment that I could real life head slap my head that I did not think to answer this question, relating it to something. How dumb can I be? Oh my god, why did I talk about a freshman year roommate story? Whatever. I think I just was so nervous and so caught off guard. And it was one of the questions that she asked me that I didn't not one of the random questions that I had Googled and practiced before.
Yeah.
So I think I was just so caught off guard. Anyway, bless her heart. She was so nice. And I did have an answer where right away I was and also if this does happen to you and if you do mess up, just try to calmly be oh yeah, I can provide another experience or something.
Yeah.
Don't be oh my god, shoot, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Don't freak out
Get all
about
flustered. Yeah.
But yeah, so embarrassing.
So and again, going back to your point about bringing it back to all these projects and your technical work in school, maybe I think that's where it helps just having literally the names of, all because in that situation, maybe you didn't have that prepared, and you got, again, you get nervous, that happens, and you just don't think about it. So I think that's very helpful just to have those, next, you see the name and you're oh, yes, I can talk about this. But, well, that's good, though, that you got your job, and now she knows that she has, rug issues in her house. No one in her house wants to do chores. She's I'm gonna call Libby and she'll make a board for us.
Oh my god, but this lady, she was super nice. She actually doesn't work at our company anymore, but I remember every day when she saw me in the office, she would be I just love your outfits, and it is just a breath of fresh air to have a young woman in this office, and she was so nice. But I wish I could call her up and be remember that one time you asked me in the interview and I told you the story about the rug? Thank you for still giving me the job. Oh my god.
Amazing. Sometimes they do ask for a personal experience though, but I feel they emphasize that in the question maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I feel I haven't really gotten that too much. I think it's more just technical questions, but
yeah.
Amazing. So basically, moral of the story, if you don't have a good chore schedule in your house, call Libby. She'll solve it.
Just call me out. I'll make you a poster board and we can problem solve together.
Amazing.
So you kind of talked about earlier about a really bold question that could be something that you could ask in an interview. And I have another one that's kind of bold that I have never personally asked in an interview. I saw this on a TikTok, I think, of someone giving interview advice. But the question is, what are some of the reasons that people leave the company? And I don't know if I would have, the amount of balls to ask that question in an interview. But if you're feeling extra spicy and bold, that could be another question that throws the people off, which I don't know if you necessarily want to throw them off, but I think it just maybe, like, asserts yourself in the interview, like, establishes a level of confidence with your interview person of, like, oh, okay, they mean business. Like, they want to get down and dirty and, like, know, the ins and outs of this position,
I think that would be a really good question for maybe someone that would be, like, a colleague on your team versus a manager setting. I feel like, I think I could totally see myself asking that. I mean, depending on how the interview goes and, like, I don't know, how...
Like, the feel, the vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the vibe of the interview. I feel like I would be comfortable asking that, but probably not to, like, someone that would be my manager, or, like... Yeah. A higher level, I guess.
It depends on the setting, I think. And you're right. That might be a good question if you do have, like, your interviews split into two where there's just an HR portion. That could maybe be a good question to ask your HR person.
Definitely. Because I feel like they do have to deal with that issue quite a bit, or those issues in general. But, one thing that I would love to talk about is this could be another, we always use that cliche. This could be an episode on itself. Just leaving a company, how you do that, like, maybe starting that whole process. And, like, because I had to do an exit interview, which went so well. I don't know if she's listening to this, but we, like, literally exchanged Instagram. She's like, okay, well, do you have an Instagram? Like interview was ending, because I don't know. Again, I would love to talk about, because I feel like people are so worried about burning bridges. There's always a very good and professional way to leave a company, no matter what state.
Even if you hate it.
Exactly. So, yeah. And so it was so funny. So I would love to talk about that, honestly, of just, like, how to approach that situation. But, basically moral of that, or point of that, comment was HR does have to deal with those situations a lot. And they know, again, why people leave.
Yeah. I think, I don't really... This is so bad. I honestly don't really remember the questions that I asked in my interview for this position, but just, like, something that I personally am interested in now that I would definitely want to ask is, like, are there any opportunities to have a mentor or a mentee? I don't know if that's something that, like, to anyone listening that you would value, but, like, me, for example, I would love the chance to, like, be mentored by someone or, like, eventually pass on the skills. I don't know, have you ever thought about asking that in an interview, Lexi?
I love asking that question because I had a really good experience with my mentor in my first role. So I think that was really important for me to have that kind of support in my next role, which we don't have a set mentor system. So again, it's not like something that's like, I don't want a job if I'm not going to have a mentor, or like that situation. Which again, I think I talked about briefly how we have our women's resource group and they're starting like a mentor system, which I'm super excited for. But I love asking that question, and I think it's very important for entry-level positions. So I think the role that I'm interviewing for in this, for this second role, it wasn't really an entry-level role. It was kind of, a few years in. So I think that's why the mentor system wasn't really established for us. Yeah. But I've had a great support system here, and, that's not throwing me off or anything. But I love that question, and I do encourage people to ask that, especially if they're in undergraduate. And even, with internships, too, you can get assigned a mentor, which I think is extremely important when you're new to industry. But yeah. And so, then...
That's a good one. Do you have any?
Yeah, I have two more. So I like this question: what are some qualities you see in people who succeed in this role? Ooh. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that one, definitely, because I feel like, again, depending on the interview, if they give you an example, you can say, oh, and this is a situation where I exemplified that. But again, I feel like that's also kind of weird. But again, in an interview, you have to sell yourself. So I think it's just how the interview's going.
And I think sometimes people forget, like, obviously, everybody wants a job and everything, and sometimes I feel like there can be this feeling of scarcity when you're applying to jobs, because you just want to grasp at any opportunity, and it's like, oh, I don't know, like, it's hard enough to get an interview, but I think it's also important to remember that it's a two-way interview. Like, they're interviewing you for the company, but you want to work somewhere that you're going to enjoy and you're going to have like a good mental state in while working. So I think that's a great question to ask to like turn the tables, and be like, what are some, qualities that you see in this position? Because then that you can kind of get a feel of, okay, do these sound like qualities or things that I have that I could contribute to, or maybe this is something that I wasn't really expecting, and maybe a different job would be better for me.
Definitely. And then my last question is, what is the company turnover rate like? So I actually have never asked this question, but in my first role, one of my colleagues, she said that she asked this, and I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. And I was like talking to her, and I straight up told her, I was like, oh my God, that's good for you, because I wouldn't. She's like, yeah, I wanted to know. She's like, I've read the reviews online. I've seen that there is, and in consulting there is a high turnover rate in general, I think. But I was like, you know what, good for you. So
yeah,
I personally, I'm not going to say I've ever asked that. Definitely haven't, but I did like that. I did like that she was so confident in that. And again, if this is something that's important to you, you deserve to know before starting the role. It's just going to make everyone's lives a lot easier if that's going to be a big, issue or, problem in the future that would make you not want to stay in that environment.
Especially if you're going into a new job maybe you're expecting it to be your job for the rest of your life. I don't know what your vibe is, but if you're going to go into a job thinking that it's going to be your job, like, what do they usually say, hire to retire? If that's what you are expecting and the turnover rate is very high, maybe this isn't the right place for you to be working. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. I had one more question that I thought would be good to ask during an interview, and this is, are there any opportunities for me to further my education? I don't remember. I don't remember if I asked this in my interview, but like things like getting your MBA or getting a master's in engineering or other certifications that we've talked about, like a PMP or an FE or any other certifications. Like my company really likes to focus on reducing waste and like lean management. So we have I think it's called like a Six Sigma program. So for example, I got my yellow belt through my company, and they have opportunities for you to do a project and get your green belt. So I think that's just like another question that can kind of like jumpstart a conversation between you and your potential future employer that, again, just like shows your interest in the company and like is another thing where they'd be like, oh wow, that's really smart that you asked that,
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have another follow-up question which wasn't on our initial list. So I feel like we're already we've talked so long on like 2 questions. Maybe we should just change the topic to job interview help. But has there ever been a situation where you've completely been like, I regret saying that, or I regret asking that, or just in an interview where you're just like, oh my God, I just feel so. I mean, I think you maybe touched on that earlier, but do you have anything? Yeah. Do you have anything else?
I think that situation was like as embarrassing as it was. It was another woman, first of all, which just made me automatically feel more comfortable for some reason, and it was HR. When I interviewed for that parts engineering position, like the technical portion, 5 men walk into the room, and then there's just little old me in a neon pink blazer on the other side of the table, and it was so freaking intimidating. I think there were 2 people that were like around college age, which I think like made me feel a little bit more comfortable, but like I think they asked me a question like about reading drawings because we are an international company, so they wanted to know what my comfortability would be with looking at Japanese drawings. And I think I said something like, oh, I don't know Japanese, but I would be willing to learn or something. Because I was trying to be like, I'm willing to learn. And then I remember it coming out of my mouth and my face just immediately went red because, no, girl, you're not going to just learn Japanese. Like, what? So And it was, but I think that one was a little bit less bad because like they were good intentions there, but I think maybe it was a little bit of a blonde moment of me being like, I don't know Japanese, but I can learn.
They're like, dude, Duolingo sponsors.
Literally, I'm like, let me just pull up my Rosetta Stone and I can learn it on the spot.
Oh my god,
But-
that's funny. That's funny.
Like, I think all of the people, all of the guys sitting, all of the men, I guess I should say, sitting on the other end, were probably all just, like, looking at each other like, this girl's not learning Japanese. What?
Yeah.
Like, I think they were expecting me to say, no, I don't. And that's it. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
or yes, I do. Like, I don't think they were expecting me to be like, no, but I can learn.
Yeah. So I have a situation that comes to mind. So this was interviewing for a company. It was like, chemical manufacturing, just all these different types of chemicals. And so I would be on the factory, on the plant, the plant was outside is something that they noted. So they noted that because I had pharma experience, so a lot of their clean room manufacturing is inside. So I don't exactly know. I'm trying to remember the company, but there was just like so many different things I was applying for, but I don't know exactly what product that they were manufacturing. But so I come in, my nails are done, my hair is straightened, I have like a whole all my jewelry. I don't think I was wearing a pink blazer. I don't think I was that ballsy for the interview, but I had heels on, and one thing that I did know, like I had not a purse, but like a briefcase purse, kind of like a bigger, like a work purse, I guess. And one thing I noted was that no one else, like I had my makeup done, like there were 2 other girls, I believe, in the interview room, and like in the waiting room, like did not have heels on, just nails not done, like just looking very different, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there is, but it just made me uncomfortable because I just clearly was like,
You were like a little over the top.
Yeah, which I am, like that's fine, and I'm not gonna change that for any situation. So we were sitting in the little room, and I guess it's the same thing where I was wearing like all this nice, like the jewelry, I don't know, probably not colored jewelry or anything, but just like, I don't know, nails are done. So I'm sitting in with these guys that are in jeans and like a polo, because it's it's just not that setting. Basically, the moral of what I was trying to say with like the heel stuff is that it was not the setting. We were in a factory setting, like girl, like, and like I'm wearing a pencil skirt, like, oh my god, God, get her out of here.
Not the vibes.
Yeah. So basically, I'm sitting there at the table, and they're asking me a technical question, and it was just the answer basically was ideal gas law, PV equals nRT. Yeah. And I knew that in my head, but I was so like, oh my god, this is such a simple and dumb answer that I don't want to say that. So I don't even know. They were like, okay, if the vessel, like if the temperature's too hot, like how could you, compensate for that? Easy. Like, my god, I learned that like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like high school, I don't know.
Yeah.
But and I just did not want to say like PV and nRT. I don't know, because I feel like I was just like, oh my god, they're gonna think I'm so dumb if this is wrong.
PV
like,
equals nRT, duh.
Yeah, and I was like trying to explain it. I was like, well, if the temperature's too hot, this is how you can compensate for this, blah blah. Just like going the really long route. And they're like, okay, but how did you come to that conclusion? And I was like, well, this is just what happens. This is what it is. Like, this is what you have to do. And I just was refusing to say PV equals nRT. And then like it was like I don't even know how many minutes of this. Like I was just like giving all these like really technical answers, and I was like, well, the molecules, blah blah blah, like all this stuff. Like, oh my god. And he's like, okay, yeah, your thought process is completely correct, but like we were looking for like ideal gas law, remember? Like this is what we derive it from. And I was like, yeah, I know, I just didn't want to say. I think that's what I knew. I think I kind of knew in the beginning, like, yeah, I'm not gonna get this. And I literally go, yeah, I was thinking that, but I just thought it was too simple of an answer. And he's like, oh well, we're just trying to emphasize that like simplicity is like it's engineering, like it's the fundamentals, like we got to think about that. Like I don't know what he was trying to say with that. It's basically that, girl, you just should have said that. But I totally knew walking out of that, I go, oh my god. I was like, I'm just going to enjoy the hotel they got me for this night for the interview. I am going to take
I'm skirting out.
I'm going to go home. Yeah. So, I guess another piece of advice going off of that is understand and, like, show up for the role you're interviewing for, I guess. I don't know. I wouldn't. Actually, I retracted. Retracted. No, do what you want to do, and obviously if you're in the interview, you're obviously going to feel like you're not a good fit for that position, which I clearly did when I was tiptoeing around in my little heels.
Well, I feel like that happened to me my first day of my co-op. I remember it was the same thing, manufacturing setting, and I was so excited, first day of my big girl job. And I showed up in black heels, black dress pants, and a flower sweater. What I still cringe thinking about that outfit. I still thinking about how I just the awareness of what I was looking like compared to everybody else. And again, I didn't have that much confidence. This is a couple years ago. I think now I would walk in wearing what I like to wear and be like, heck yeah, I got stars on my jeans, whatever. Yeah. But when I was just, starting off, I remember being so embarrassed because I was like, everybody's wearing jeans and I'm wearing dress pants and heels, and it's just, there's so many options for women but again, wear whatever you want to wear because, that's what we're all about. But
yeah, exactly. You shouldn't, you shouldn't change. Yeah, no, that definitely was a wake-up call. I was like, okay, well, I'm clearly, interviewing for a very different type of position than I was dressed for, So, yeah. I don't know. Again, but I don't want to say change it going into the interview. No, you're going to really, you're going to figure out in the middle of the interview, yeah, this is not, let's just chat about our day because we're done here. Yeah. We're going to use up the rest of this hour, but we're not going to talk about this position anymore because clearly, I don't know. Clearly we were, we'd be better somewhere else. There's a better position for you. But I remember that, and I feel so dumb. PVNRT, oh my god. I just thought it was so simple. I was like, oh my god, they're gonna say this girl is just talking about the, basics that she should talk about all this other stuff that she learned in thermo too, So it was just ridiculous. But also, moral of the story, simplicity is sometimes honestly key. Don't overcomplicate it is basically what he was trying to say when he was replying to my answer. But yeah, my goodness gracious. But I mean, thanks for the hotel.
Yeah, right.
That's nice. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, and I think, and I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, and I'm saying this from experience. Now I have a job and everything, so people listening, if they're trying to get a job, are gonna be like, Libby, shut up! You already have a job. But seriously, if you are going through the job application process and you're in the interview process, I think sometimes there's this pressure that at least I felt where it was oh my god, I have the interview. Okay, if I get the job, I need to take the job. And I think somebody actually messaged our Instagram about this, wondering if they should turn a job down or not. I think if you have a gut feeling that it's not right for you or something better is on its way, I don't think, turn it down, I think sometimes it's oh, we get the job offer, so we just think we have to accept it. And there's so many factors that you need to consider before you, make that commitment with a company.
Definitely. That's another thing we should totally talk about. Maybe you could go into that other, thing about leaving a job. Maybe we can title it Hard Situations in Work That You Have to Deal With.
Yeah.
Because I remember for my first role, I was interviewing for another company, and the timelines just weren't adding up. I got the offer from this company, and then I was still having another interview with the other company, and it was just so hard to deal with. Do I message the HR lady saying I have an offer? This is when I have the deadline till. So I'd love to talk about that, but yeah. I mean, say no if you have that gut feeling. There's always a professional way to do it without burning bridges.
Yeah. And companies, I think another thing that, and yeah, this totally goes with leaving a company too, that I think we all have to remind ourselves of, whether we like it or not, we're all replaceable. And, I know we're all shiny, superstar, unicorn ladies who bring so much to the table, but at the end of the day, if you say no, I think that's something that people are oh, I feel so guilty, I don't want to say no, They have somebody else that they can call.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not the only one that they can call. And same with if you want to leave a company, people are ooh, but I've got so much responsibility. It's okay. Yeah. They're gonna find somebody else to take on your responsibilities.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to our Q&A. So we're going to call this a career-focused Q&A because we literally got through 2 questions that were asked, and I think we had 3 of our own that just popped up while we were talking. So hopefully we'll do another. We have more questions, so
we have so many. And I feel like we could even if we put another Q&A box up on our Instagram, I'm sure we would get so many more questions. I think we want to make this a monthly or bi-weekly, probably monthly thing where we do a Q&A, give our advice.
Yeah, because I think we have a few interviews coming up, but can throw this one in there. But yeah, so that was just funny. We literally got through only the we talked about one for like 25 minutes. But we had like little questions.
We're chatters. We're such chatters.
We are.
But I think that our experiences, like, the reason that we only get through 2 questions is because we have like all these stories, and I think that's good, because I think it provides like some insight and advice from our lives. Yeah,
like if someone told me I wish someone told me just say PVNRT. Like, come on. Like, I really wish and I think the stories are a better way to get across kind of like all this advice that we're talking about. It's just way more fun, and in general, that's why I like interviewing others so much, just to hear about their experiences too, because I don't know, you learn from each other. So you live and learn. We're living and learning.
We're living and learning. If you guys have some cringy interview stories, feel free to share it with us if you feel comfortable when you give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We would love to hear your cringy interview stories, and maybe even we can do a follow-up episode to this. Maybe we'll put a question box even on our Instagram, and we can read out cringy interview experiences.
Because honestly, hearing you and your experiences kind of made me feel better, because I just, like, at random times, like, I could be making coffee and just remember that interview thing, and I'm like, ugh.
Same.
You can't see my face right now if you're listening to this, but I'm like, ugh.
Literally, I will think about talking about a freaking rug, cleaning a rug, and making a cardboard or whatever poster board for cleaning a rug in college, and I will be making coffee, and I'll be like, why did I do that?
Yes,
oh my gosh.
So we can all relate, so that made me feel better. So hopefully it makes you guys feel better too, and we have tons of embarrassing stories to talk about, so...
Oh yeah, we're full of them. But yeah, so thank you guys for listening, and we shameless promo, we got a plug. We really do love when we see written reviews on the Apple Podcast, and also those are things that we read off in the beginning of episodes too, so you will get a chance to be featured in our episode if you do leave one of those types of reviews. I think it helps us in like the charts or whatever, which just like helps us reach even more fantastic people out there to share our embarrassing stories about vacuuming rugs with.
Yes, and I think we keep talking about the giveaway. So we finally set like a measure of when we will do the giveaway, and that's when we reach 100 reviews on Apple Podcasts. So make sure you keep leaving those reviews.
Yeah, and for those who are new or haven't heard about our giveaway yet, we're going to give away a $100 Visa gift card to one of you lovely people. And all you have to do to be entered is fill out our little form that's in the link in our bio, and we'll also put it in the show notes. And yeah, we were just thinking $100 Visa gift card would be good if you're in college. Maybe it can help you out with like purchasing books or a new calculator. If you're out of college, maybe you can buy some cool PPE swag with it or whatever else you need for your job. Or maybe you just want to treat yourself and go on a shopping spree. And
that's what I was going to say. Get some pizza.
That is cool too.
Yeah. Go to dinner. Get some nice sushi or something.
Go to Aritzia.
Oh, yes. We were talking about that before we we recorded. Yeah. Yeah,
I need to go to Aritzia shopping spree.
Send us your Aritzia recommendations. Also, we just found out that there's no Aritzia in Wisconsin, only in the Chicago area, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay, everyone, send in your Aritzia recommendations also, because that is...
Let us know. We're trying to be stylish, okay?
We're trying to be stylish and broke. Just kidding.
And broke, because apparently Aritzia is bougie. Bougie. I think you said that in a previous episode. What did you say? You're like, bougie.
Oh, God. Who knows? Probably blacked it out of my memory. I'm like, that was embarrassing. Just never think about that again.
Bougie. Oh my gosh. We need to just cut this out. You know what? Yeah. Share this with your friends, people, because we are some fun, flirty girls who love to laugh and share our stories, and maybe you can learn a thing or two from us. So share it with your friends, maybe your family, maybe your dad, maybe your mom, maybe your Instagram story. Maybe your professors. Maybe.
Oh no, probably not those.
Not your professors. Just share it. We would love that so much. So much. We would love it.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm Lexi.
Wait, we have to say follow us on Instagram.
Oh, darn! I was gonna throw it out there where you weren't like. I was thinking maybe if we do like a surprise like ending outro, we'll get it. Yeah. Okay. Well, so you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, Engineer Lexi.
And you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, Libby be on the label. And then we have the Instagram, we have the TikTok for the podcast at My Best Friend's an Engineer. The YouTube is BFE Podcast. And then, of course, the Facebook group. That'll be in the show notes. Make sure you come join us on Facebook. On the
I'm excited. So excited.
Yeah. Oh my god, why am I getting a work call right now? Hello, I'm filming a podcast.
Oh my god, you can answer.
No, I denied them. It's probably people like your student loans are up. I always get those kinds of calls on my work phone, or people being like, this is the Social Security. You don't have to pay your taxes this year. And
you're like, perfect, I wasn't gonna.
Work phone.
Just kidding.
I know, right?
That's funny.
Like, oh my god, the other day I even got a nude on the phone. Somebody sent a nude.
That's really, that's bad because did you tell IT?
Isn't that creepy?
Yeah, I hope you told IT.
Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
Or one time I even got somebody texting me being like, is this my ex-boyfriend? And I was like, no, it's a work phone.
It's just a product manager of steam turbines.
Yeah, I'm like, no. Oh my god.
Unless your ex-boyfriend is a steam turbine.
I know. I'm like, wrong number.
Amazing.
Jeez.
All right.
Jesus.
Well,
Jesus.
I'm Lexi.
I'm Libby.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to my
best friend's an engineer. Why do you stop? You just stop talking.
Because I see you stop talking.
Oh.
And then I'm like, maybe I should stop talking too. Okay, wait. Let's just do it and let's just not stop.
Yeah, okay. Don't look at me. Ready? Okay. I'm Lexi.
I'm Libby.
And thanks for listening to my best friend's an engineer.
It's nice. I'm sitting out here looking off